Financial leadership is changing. CFOs no longer record history. They make history. This podcast will help you become a better leader, strategic thinker, and digital visionary. Welcome to Secrets of Rockstar CFOs, the ultimate podcast for chief financial officers. Follow along as Jack McCullough engages in exciting chats with accomplished CFOs, learning how they overcame obstacles and positioned their companies for the future. Here's your host, Jack McCullough.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Secrets of Rockstar CFOs. I'm your host, Jack McCullough. You can follow us online at rockstarcfos.com. We have a great guest today, so let's get to it. Rock on. Wow, everybody. Welcome back to the Secrets of Rockstar CFOs. We have a true rockstar CFO today. My guest is Tricia Tolivar, who's the CFO of CAVA. CAVA is a fast casual Mediterranean restaurant chain offering customizable bowls, salads, and pitas. I just want to welcome Tricia. Welcome to the Secrets of Rockstar CFOs.
Jack, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I gave a really brief description of your company, but maybe you could fill in the blanks and share a little more details with our audience.
I'd be happy to. So CAVA is a Mediterranean category-defining brand. So we've recently brought our brand to over 25 states in the country, and we're able to bring amazing Mediterranean cuisine where taste and health unite and deliver that with incredible hospitality through one of our over 300 restaurants across the country today.
No, that's a fantastic story because so many people are looking that, they want, good quick service, which you really have. They want to, and they want to eat healthy, right? They want it fast and they want it healthy. That's been elusive for a while, but you guys seem to have cracked that nut a little bit.
Yeah, we're really fortunate. So we were able to take the blend of convenience, relevance, and experience to our guests each and every day. And we find that that's really differentiating the experience for them and creating a value proposition for them that's differentiating. So what we're finding and seeing is that as fast casual has it really brought itself to the brand and to the country, brought itself as a format. CAVA's been able to bring its unique cuisine and really differentiate there. But it's also creating this sort of an influx between those that were experienced with fast food and how those prices have increased in fast food, creating a more expensive alternative and closing that gap between our value and theirs from a price perspective, creating more of an opportunity for trade up from fast food to fast casual that's really affordable and really highlighting the difference in the opportunity that we have. At the same time, casual dining is experiencing a little bit of a challenge in that it's not as differentiated with tipping and everything that's going on. It's becoming more expensive and therefore creating the opportunity for guests to trade down from casual dining into fast casual and creating a unique opportunity for us to provide a value that is exceptional and brings guests coming back to us more and more often.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just grateful that you've opened up some locations in Eastern Massachusetts. So
we're happy to have you as a guest and excited about the warm welcome that we're getting in all the markets that we open.
That's great. So I want to chat a little about your early years. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up in New York. I lived on Long Island until I was 10. And then my family moved to Florida, on the west coast of Florida in the Tampa area.
Okay. So, and where do you live now, if I may ask?
So I live now in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So my husband is from Louisiana, and his family is here, as well as two of our grandchildren are here. One of our children's here, and our youngest daughter is living with us as well. So we recently moved. I'm able to benefit from a hybrid work arrangement. So our company office is located in Maryland, in DC. And so we recently relocated from Maryland to Baton Rouge to be closer to family, so that we can take care of our aging parents as well as enjoy our grandchildren.
That's fantastic. And yeah, it's interesting. You look substantially younger to me. So if I gave a little bit of one of those when you mentioned grandchildren, I apologize. But anyway, so you grew up there and you went to college at Emory to study accounting, which, it seems to be a pretty good decision for you. You've had a wonderful career, but what was it that attracted the 17-year-old Tricia to a career in accounting?
Yeah, so in 1986, I went to Atlanta to go to Emory, and I really loved numbers and math, and so I thought accounting would make sense. And selfishly, it was the quickest way out to get a job. So Emory was a bit expensive, and I was putting myself through school and taking on loans. And at the time in Georgia, you could get your CPA in 4 years, and accounting seemed like the right path for me and something I was comfortable with. In many cases, it just made sense. I didn't have accounting classes in high school. I experienced business school once I got to Atlanta. Originally, had thought about maybe I'll go the engineering route, but Emory was more. That program would be a combination of Emory and Georgia Tech, and would have added another year to my education, and said, okay, what's the fastest way for me to get out and start producing? And that's the path I took.
Yeah. And, I had a similar type of thing. I don't think at 17, I exactly had a passion for accounting or business or truthfully anything else that I had reasonable skills at, but it seemed like a really good career path. And, here it is, in my case, almost 40 years after I graduated. And, I've been, if I've worked 39 years, I've been employed 38 years and 9 months of them. I definitely encourage people to pursue accounting. And I know it's not exactly the hot field these days for up and comers, but it's a great way to make a living.
I agree. And certainly the accounting profession is looking for more and more talented candidates. Although I haven't convinced any of my children to go that route, certainly has been something that I have enjoyed throughout my career.
No, that's great. So so you've worked with, I looked at your LinkedIn and I recognize the name of every company you worked at. So you worked at EY, AutoZone, then EY again, and then GNC and now CAVA. But so you went the public accounting route and then AutoZone with company, probably about 100% name recognition, I would guess at this point, perhaps not when you worked there. But tell me how those roles prepared you for the current role of being the CFO at CAVA.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So EY was a great experience. I went to EY and really thought I was going to be a partner there. There weren't many women in the partnership at the time. And I thought, oh, this is going to be great. And honestly, I worked at EY when women couldn't wear pants to work. So I was part of that generation that was able to introduce a pantsuit and do that in a meaningful way. But what I had the opportunity to do is get to experience AutoZone as a client. So I was at EY at the time when you could still go work for your clients. And so I left EY to start their internal audit department. And at the time, we called it process improvement because we didn't want that internal audit kind of halo around it. And it was a fabulous experience for me. So also got to participate in a number of their acquisitions. We did 3 acquisitions in a period of 18 months and got to be part of that team that evolved that. And it was a very transformational time at AutoZone. There was a bit of an opportunity for us as a business to break out of silos. We had a new CEO come in, Steve Odland, and he got all of the VPs together, and there were many of us that didn't even know each other. And he's like, okay, here's an opportunity for us to see how we can work together to really transform and drive the business. And I was able to be part of that transformation. So through that experience, I evolved into different roles. I I finished working on the internal audit department, had the opportunity to work in FP&A and strategy, and then ultimately the corporate controller, which is a great opportunity as a public company, but then was identified as an opportunity to run a business at AutoZone. And that was something I'll never forget. Steve came to me and said, hey, I've got this idea and I want to see if you want to run the commercial division. It's our second largest division. And I said, no, I want to be CFO. I want to go down the CFO path, and why do I need to do that? And he said, it'll make you a better CFO, I promise. And he was absolutely right. And I led that division, and it was interesting. I did not know how to lead a sales force, an operations team. There were so many things I had to learn, and really had the opportunity to learn a lot of things there that helped drive me as a better business partner and trusted business advisor today. So strongly encourage that opportunity to experience operations. Did that for a little while and was traveling a good bit because part of it was managing relationships with the commercial division was really those that were fixing the cars for people. So it wasn't the DIY side of the business, it was do it for me. And so I was traveling, going and meeting different customers across the country and working on different deals. And it was a lot of time away. I had 2 young children at the time, and then was a single mom for part of the time. And it was a bit of a challenge. And I went back and I said, hey, I really need to have some more stability and some more time at home. Can I go back into finance and really be back in my comfort zone? And Steve again said, no, that's easy. You don't want to do that. Let me see what else we can do. And I had the opportunity to then pivot and shift and learn about supply chain and replenishment. He said, that'll keep you at home. You won't have to travel as much, but you'll get to explore another part of the business. And again, it was very beneficial for me to see another side of the business and understand, we had over $1 billion in inventory and wanted to see how we could optimize that better. And I was able to successfully do that. So lots of great learnings there that I was able to leverage more as we moved into other parts of my career that were truly valuable and helped me, I believe, be a better business partner for those that I work with today. So as I continue to do that, I mentioned I was a single mom going through a kind of a challenging divorce process and took some time off, and everyone said, oh, you're going to hate it. And I played golf and tennis and spent more time with my kids, and there wasn't a whole lot I hated about it, but I did miss the professional side of it and decided not to go back. AutoZone was an incredible experience. I learned a tremendous amount, and it was super exciting, but there was I didn't know how to be someone different than I was when I was there. And I wanted to be a better mom than I had been and wanted to be a little more balanced in my approach. And so I went and had the opportunity to be a CFO of a nonprofit in the Memphis area. Again, a great experience, really taught me how to work in a smaller organization and how to be scrappy and, manage everything and close the books myself and, write the checks and do everything that I had teams to do before, but also manage the executives that were on the board. And so there was a significant endowment that we were investing in and making sure we were distributing to different arts organizations across the city. And so I was entrusted to do the best thing I could with the dollars. And so that was another benefit and learning. Ultimately, started dating my husband now. He had an opportunity to take a job in Atlanta. And then as we got married and I moved, I went back to EY and had the opportunity to be very flexible as I was starting my new family, relocating my kids, and then really being a great internal financial partner on the EY side. So led their North and South America financial practice for the consulting arm of the business. And so again, had a lot of opportunity, but had taken myself out of that CFO route. I had mentioned I really wanted to be a CFO, but really wanted to focus on my family, but keeping up that professional side at the same time. And EY, again, came in as an opportunity to help me hone in on those skills, but also give back to what I needed from a personal standpoint and a family standpoint at that time. Ironically, while I was there, an individual who I had worked for at AutoZone had the opportunity to become the CEO, and that's Mike Archbold at GNC. And he reached out and he said, I know I've called you a number of times with different opportunities. You've always turned me down, but I've taken on this role at GNC and the CFO role is open. Do you have any interest? And I said, it's funny, Mike, my oldest children, Ellie and Will, I had never wanted to move because I didn't want to risk losing them to move back to their dad in Memphis. And I said, but ironically, they've decided on their own to move to Memphis. And so my husband, Dennis, and I are here, and our youngest, Lily's 4. She hasn't started kindergarten. So if there's a time where we want to do something, now would be the time to explore that. So had the opportunity to take a public company CFO role. I never had that opportunity. He gave me that because of the experience and the relationship we had. And so my husband and I took our 4-year-old at the time. She turned 5, and we started kindergarten and my career there as a public company CFO back in 2015. That was an interesting experience as well. So I know I've been going on. I'll go a little bit longer, but during that time, worked with 4 different CEOs over that span of my career from 2015 to 2020. Saw a lot of ups and downs there, learned a tremendous amount, and then navigated through the end through a bankruptcy experience that also taught me a lot of resilience and a lot of things to take with me and learn from as I move forward. It was one of the quickest bankruptcy exits that we experienced or that has been heard of. So we entered in June and exited in September, but certainly wanted to make sure I could do as much as I could for the people and businesses that were impacted as possible. So while going through that, towards the end, a friend of mine who had worked with me heard about the opportunity at CAVA, and he said, Tricia might be interested. And so fortunately, Kelly Costanza, our head of people and culture, reached out to me and said, hey, I've got this opportunity. So keep in mind, this is in 2020. So the pandemic's going on, and I'm Googling what is CAVA, and I'm reading it's a restaurant. And I said, you think I'm crazy? Like, this is doesn't seem like the right time to be trying a new opportunity in the middle of where people aren't even going into restaurants. And luckily, Kelly was persistent, and I listened, and she said, no, this is something really special, and I want you to hear me out. And thank goodness I did. I got to meet Kelly and Brett, our founder, one of our co-founders, Brett Schulman, our CEO, as well as many other board members, and got to learn really how special CAVA was. And fortunately, took the step and went there in November of 2020, and it's been an incredible experience ever since. But lots of learnings along the way that I believe has helped me understand the best path forward and how to be hopefully an amazing partner for my peers.
Well, I think we could end the podcast right there, and we've already delivered tremendous value to the audience. So that's just a great story. And one of my questions when I talk about the career path is, are there any mentors that you've had along the way? Because very few people get to your level without some help along the path. And it sounds like you had more than your fair share of people who took a genuine interest in your career path. But, are there maybe one that sticks out or two that stick out as being particularly impactful?
It's interesting. When I reflect on that, I really go back to my mom, which is not a traditional answer. So my mom took care of me at home until I was in middle school or high school, and then she worked in retail. And she really always instilled in me the confidence to be able to think that I could do anything I wanted as long as I put my mind to it. And she also always taught me from her retail experience, the customer is always right, and how do you continue to deliver on that experience. But she's just been an amazing sounding board for me. And anytime I might have questioned a path or wondered what was the best thing, she always gave great advice and kept me grounded and certainly kept me whole. So that was helpful.
Yeah, no, it's it's a rare answer, but you're not the first person who's mentioned a parent as a mentor along the way. And yeah, I mean, my parents had an outside influence on me, even though they didn't have a professional life. My mom was a mom and my dad was a mason. But, I learned more from them than from anybody I ever worked with, just about treating people and commitment to quality. And my dad would have put an expletive here and there, but, the customer is always right, even when the customers are blank.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting. I probably discounted the value that my mom provided earlier because I didn't think she had the professional experience, but there were so many times where her intuition and her wisdom opened my eyes to how I was seeing a situation that was really helpful. And my dad was a general contractor. And so, I was the first one in our family to finish college. And so that's something they were very proud of. And, I'm just happy to be able to have realized how much I learned from her.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So let's talk a little about CAVA. Mm-hmm. And again, you're doing a good job of anticipating my questions because I was going to ask how you came to get the role, and it sounds like I know. But given everything you'd done at that point in career, all of your experiences, you perhaps had your pick of multiple CFO type roles. I'm going to guess, even if you weren't actively looking. But so, what was it about CAVA that said, "Yeah, I'm going to make the leap"?
I guess I'd start with my interaction with Brett. So I loved his passion for the business. as well as his understanding of the guest. It was one of the things that I think during my time at GNC, we missed. We were so focused on, well, we're brick and mortar. We ignored this thing called the internet and e-commerce and Amazon. And so we just said, no, let's keep driving and do what we've always done. And Brett is such a visionary in how he understands guest behavior and trends and how to stay in front of those and how to leverage technology to be able to do it. And so in a lot of ways, it reminded me of my early days at AutoZone. So high growth, lots of opportunity, understanding the business need and how you can address it, and really wanted to be back part of that type of experience, and couple that with a founder-led business. The founders are still very engaged, which is phenomenal. And, then you've got amazing food and an incredible team of over 10,000 people that deliver on amazing hospitality. It was hard not to say, yeah, this is something I really want to be part of.
Yeah, no, that makes a whole lot of sense. So now that you work there, what is the culture at your company like, if I may ask?
Yeah, I get asked this quite a bit, and I often say it's really special. There's hard to put words to it. I've been fortunate to have been able to recruit a number of individuals that have worked for me before, and I said, it's unlike anything I've experienced. It's a very special place, and we talk about our mission and our values and our competencies, and our mission is to bring heart, health, and humanity to food, and that's something that we're all passionate about. And our values are things that we really believe in and deliver on. So whether that's generosity first always, or passion for positivity, or constant curiosity, we all do that. But at the end of the day, I'm really just part of a team of very thoughtful, passionate people that care about what they do and care about each other. And it just makes it a really exciting, fun place to be.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the one in Woburn, Mass a couple of times, as I mentioned before we started recording, and I actually have a unique ability to determine a company culture at restaurants and stores because I'm an autism parent. And both of my sons are young adults who are autistic, and my oldest is nonverbal. And how they treat my kids, I think I know exactly what the company's about based. I know you can get a particularly good one or bad one, but they treat my kids like they're rock stars when they go. It's not like they can remember the name or anything like that, but they remember my kids for sure. And they just make them feel good. And they can be a little bit of a handful. My youngest will not stop talking. He'll ask 300 questions, and he's the most curious human being on the planet. And I'm not unrealistic. I know not everybody's good with that. But, they're just great to him. They're so patient with him, and, they're very nice to him. So it really reflects, the corporate culture actually stems down to the customer experience, as best I can tell.
Well, that's our goal, and I'm so glad to hear it. Like I said, I'm very proud to be part of such an amazing team of people, and we like to get it right, and we don't always, but I'm glad to hear that was how it occurs for you.
Yeah. So I'm going to say you're either the bravest guest I've had so far or the craziest. And we're going to figure out which of the two that is. You took your company public in 2023. And I'm guessing everybody told you not to, probably, right?
Absolutely, they did. And we were in such a fortunate position because we didn't need to go public. So we had a great balance sheet and a lot of opportunity, but we wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to leverage the exposure that we would get from being a public company. And I'll be honest, frankly, I thought, yeah, we'll get some exposure and okay, we'll see what happens. But that exposure was actually very significant and really helped create a step function for us as an organization and our visibility across the country and where we were. The thing, though, that was really differentiating, and I don't know, I still am not sure if it was bravest or craziest. So maybe we can decide at the end of this podcast. But we wanted to make sure we were ready. And whenever we went, it was because we were ready. And I really thank Brett and our board for making sure that we were in that spot. And I think that's what's enabled us to be successful today as a public company. For 18 months, we prepared, at least for 18 months, we did 5 mock earnings calls before we even went public. So we just acted like we were a public company, went through, prepared the earnings release, the script, conducted Q&A, and really just said, okay, we don't want this to be the first time to be the first time. Let's make sure that we've got this down. And so we practiced things like creating guidance before we were a public company, and then, working with our leadership team and saying, okay, here's what our commitments are. We're going to stand up against those commitments. And I think all of that preparation really paid off for us. And it's been a good experience so far.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I wasn't familiar with your company until you went public. So I guess mission accomplished, if I'm any indication. But I remember people like, well, why is this sort of niche fast casual restaurant going public? But then afterwards, it's like you and a handful of other companies were sort of like, geez, they're the ones that kind of restored the IPO market for the rest of us. So, thank God that you did, make that decision. And it was a hugely successful event, right?
It was, a very special time for us as an organization, but as we say over and over again, it was definitely not the destination. It was a step on our journey. And it's really created the opportunity for wonderful next chapters for us to be able to fulfill and deliver on our mission. So. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people say an IPO is an exit. And I suppose for investors that are going to sell at the time, it kind of is, but not for you. You're still going to work there for a few more years, right? It's really, it's maybe the biggest event in the company's history other than when it started.
It is. And, but I've heard people compare it to, it's like the wedding, and what really matters is the marriage and how you deliver on that and how you approach it. And so there was a lot of celebration that went into play as part of the event. And certainly that was super important. But the focus really, and what I'm really proud of our team around, is how very quickly it was, okay, back to our strategy and how are we going to deliver and how are we going to execute against our plans. And that's what makes us a great team.
Yeah, no, that's great. But so, an IPO, wonderful thing for everybody, right? But it does change the culture and it does create some challenges, right? Because you go probably in, not having worked there, but, I'm guessing it had a very entrepreneurial feel to the company before it's going public, but all of a sudden now you're public and there's certain things that you need to do, right? You need to behave like a public company that the world is watching. So how did the event change your culture, not only within your team, but maybe across the company?
Yeah, it's interesting. So we practiced being a public company for a while before we went public. So I didn't notice a significant change. And fortunately, the bigger you get, the harder it is to have that entrepreneurial piece, whether you're public or not. And so we want to continue to embrace that in our culture, and having our founders still involved in the business helps keep that for us. But what it allows us to do, though, is completely focus on the business. And like I said, create this opportunity from a brand visibility perspective that gives us even more strength. But we still stay grounded in, we want to do what's right for our guests, our team members. And if we do that, it ultimately pays out for our investors. So we take a very long-term focus and say, what is it that we're doing for our guests in terms of price, the experience they have that keeps them coming back? What is it that we're doing for the team members so that team members are excited about what they're doing, deliver on that experience that you and your family have had? And again, all of that fuels an incredible business model that makes investors happy. And so as long as we make sure that we're focused on those long-term things, the short-term things work out well. And that's some of what the market worries about. But we try to stay focused on, what are we thinking about 2 years out, 5 years out? What do we need to have to make this business successful so that we can deliver as time goes on and make sure that it all works out? We're often looking at it and saying, a happy team member equals a happy guest equals a happy P&L, and that's what's going to drive more value for our team members and our shareholders overall.
That's fantastic. And, one of the challenges when companies grow as quickly as CAVA has, there's the R, CAVA has, it's always a challenge to maintain the quality, right? So how do you do that, maintaining the high quality delivery that you want to bring to your customers, but also you've got a great opportunity in front of you. You want to grow as quickly as you can. How do you juggle those two things?
Great question. Again, it's thinking about 2 and 5 years out. And so we often invest ahead of the growth so that we can ensure that we maintain that quality, which is so important to us. The quality of our food, the quality of our guest experience. And so making those investments in people, processes, and technology ahead of time allows us to support the growth that we envision for the future and maintain, if not improve, the quality of that experience as we go forward.
Oh, that's a great philosophy, because I know people, they own one restaurant and they opened up a second, and they couldn't do it. They had such a successful individual restaurant, but they lost the quality control, and both of them suffered. So it's amazing what any restaurant really chain has done, I think. So
Yeah, we often say scaling restaurants is not like scaling SaaS software. So it's hard, and you really have to pay close attention to it and give it a lot of love to do it in the right way.
absolutely. And you mentioned scaling. So from a financial background, what are sort of the financial strategies you implement to support that?
So first start with the right team in place to be able to deliver on our experience and making sure that we can deliver on our commitments. Definitely don't want any surprises. And so we're very thoughtful in how we approach the business. Had great technology and tools in place to be able to do that. And then really going back to what I talked about earlier is how did we incorporate the practices into being a public company before we were a public company, so we weren't figuring it out along the way.
Makes sense. So one thing I learned, I think, I interviewed another CFO for a well-known fast casual place, and I was surprised to learn what a big role that innovation played in the company. And, I wasn't surprised. You're in, one of the most competitive markets out there. But, I guess it makes sense that the companies that succeed would be innovative. So how does CAVA approach innovation? You can't keep the same menu forever and the same experience forever. People are going to get really, really bored.
You're absolutely right. And so how do you balance that innovation and not create so much change that it's difficult for the restaurants to execute on as well? So I talked about our mission, values, and competencies, or MVC. Innovation and growth is one of our key competencies, and it's certainly a significant component of how we think about the business. And we lay out roadmaps for culinary innovation and pipeline innovation 2 to 3 years out. And so we're always working through that process and going through different stage gates. So doing market tests and, starting with an ops test and understanding, okay, is this innovation going to break the kitchen, or is it going to be something that we can deliver on? That works, we move to a market test and we say, okay, how is the consumer going to receive this? Is this going to work? And then we take it and bring it out into a full rollout. That whole cycle is 12 to 18 months. And so really making sure that we're thoughtful in bringing new items to the market while creating excitement for the guests at the same time. But the innovation is key. And so whether that's innovation from a culinary perspective, or right now we're relaunching our loyalty program and creating innovation around that. So shifting from a spend X, get Y to more of a surprise and delight and a rewards program where you can choose how you want to use your points to experience CAVA, and then maybe even have other opportunities from a merchandise standpoint or other things to create more innovation and excitement. Or you've got different innovation around, are there different contests? Could it be that, Jack, your bowl is the most favored bowl in the Boston market, and now you're going to be rewarded because you've attracted others to the brand and taught them new things about what to combine into their CAVA experience. So innovation is definitely a key component, something we're passionate about.
Along with innovation, but technology, right? It's everywhere. It's constantly changing. It makes it fun. But how is CAVA using technology both within finance and accounting and in the broader business as well? Boy, I'm talking with my hands a lot today. It's really a shame this is an audio experience for most people.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm probably creating that. So from a technology standpoint, I mentioned a little bit earlier, certainly CAVA has been very thoughtful around technology. We created our own digital platforms because we knew how important it was to create a differentiated experience. So as you look at if you have the opportunity to order online, it's much like going down the line in our restaurants. And so a little bit differentiated from what others experience. But when you think about technology in the finance and accounting world, trying to use tools to get better at forecasting, whether you can use weather patterns or prior trends to do predictive modeling on what sales are going to look like. And so we're in the early stages of that. We think there's an opportunity for AI and other tools to bring into the business, but likely going to find others that are going to realize those and understand them a little bit better before we sink significant dollars into them. So let others kind of test it out first. But really in technology, when you're thinking about it, we find the value in our restaurants. And so how can we use technology and tools to be able to make our team members' jobs easier? So is that leveraging video technology understanding when it's time to put more harissa honey chicken on the line. So you inform the grill cook electronically to put more chicken on the grill, as opposed to relying on the intuition of team members to be able to call back and place orders for additional items. Creating tools that can make their lives easier, provide tools for scheduling or ordering that are more automated. And so that's where we see the opportunities for technology. We also have a firm belief that we see technology as an opportunity to enhance the human experience, not replace the human experience. I talked about our visions to bring heart, health, and humanity to food. And we think that's something that guests really want, is that exchange from a human connection standpoint. That's super important. So while we think technology can help the experience in the restaurant, we don't see it replacing it in the front. Perhaps maybe in the back of our restaurants for our digital orders, there could be an opportunity for automation, but we still want to be able to see you, engage with your kids and your family, and deliver on that CAVA hospitality that we believe in.
Yeah, I think people, and even younger people who just grew up with technology, they still want that human interaction when they can have it. So we're not a planet of robots. So I have a question. I know perhaps you're not a CPA anymore, but certainly, your formative professional years were in public accounting, but just a little different than that, beyond traditional GAAP, what are some of the ways that you measure success at CAVA?
Oh, interesting question.
Once in a while, I have a good one, don't I?
Ways to measure success. Certainly, how our guests feel about the business is one of the things that's most important to us. So we're always working to refine our tools. We're rolling out a new system that's going to give an opportunity for guests to give us real-time feedback that we can then share with our operators so they can get better and better and go back and deliver on that incredible hospitality. A financial metric that we often look at is traffic. And what does that say? If you've got positive traffic, which we've been fortunate to experience, is something that's really a testament of, do your guests want to keep coming back? But I would say for front and center is the guest experience and how we're delivering on that.
Makes sense. So I want to step back a little bit to the profession of being a CFO. Mm-hmm. And, I was first time I was a CFO was a quarter of a century ago, which I never consciously thought about until this very moment. How do you see the role of financial leadership changing? Because I got my first CFO job probably because I was the best accountant and I was reasonably strategic and I got along well with the boss and people liked me, but it was largely my finance and accounting skills. I don't think that's it anymore.
It's not. I think the strategy piece of it's super important, and also the general business understanding and how you can be a great partner and advisor for the rest of the organization. And I also think how to look ahead and understand what it is that's going to matter to 5 years from now, and what is it from a resource perspective can you provide for the business to make sure you can deliver on that in the best way possible. So really leveraging those capabilities. A strong accounting background is nice, but I don't think it's as necessary, as prevalent as it was when you and I started decades ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, I sometimes remind people, CFO, the F is for financial. and then I say, and that's good enough for me to see if they have kids of the Sesame Street age. That's from Cookie Monster, if that's not obvious.
Yeah.
But yeah, and sometimes people look at me, what? But yeah, finance and accounting skills will always be a big part of it. But a lot of CFOs I talk to, I have a great chief accounting officer, a great controller. I couldn't do my job if I didn't. It's such a great skill set to have. So
absolutely, completely agree.
I want to ask now, one of the things I wanted to do with this podcast is I'd like to change the perception the world has of CFOs. So I like to ask people, do you have like a hidden talent, an interesting hobby, or is there a fun fact about you that you can share with our listeners?
Oh, interesting. So, I think as a CFO, I want to make sure that we have fun. And so, we spend a lot of time at work and we spend a lot of time together, and we want to make sure we have fun. But if there's an interesting fact that people don't know, that would be when I was younger and living in New York, I had the opportunity to do a number of commercials as a kid. So was a little girl in pigtails with stovetop stuffing, and it was stuffing over potatoes. So that was something that I experienced when I was about 5 or 6.
Okay. Wow. I'm going to go on YouTube and look up stovetop classic commercials and see if I can pick you out. So
you might be able to find it. So
yeah. Wow. That's fantastic. That's definitely one of the most fun facts I've had. So I like to ask about work-life balance And your situation is interesting because you're the mother of 5 children. But also, I want to tie it back to an IPO because while I've never done one, I've been a controller and I saw the toll that it takes on the leadership team. How do you sort of manage those worlds, right? I mean, because you can't say that it doesn't impact your family, because it does.
Yeah, it certainly does. So you mentioned I have 5 kids. I'm very blessed to have them, and 4 are almost completely grown and out of the house, and 1 is starting high school. And so, during the IPO process, I guess you get so into it, you don't realize how much it's pulling on you and the time that it's requiring. And my experience was very positive, so I enjoyed every bit of it. And you can't talk about it, right? Because it's confidential, and so your family doesn't necessarily know what's going on. But I didn't realize when you talk about work-life balance, one of the things I try to do is always be present wherever I am. So when I'm at work, I want to be present and fully engaged with work. And when I'm home, I want to be present and fully engaged when I'm home. And sometimes I'm more successful at that than others. But when you tie it back to the IPO, I guess I reflect on, I didn't realize how impactful it was to my youngest daughter and the whole experience itself until just a couple months ago. She was interviewing for high schools, and my husband and I had the benefit of sitting in on one of the interviews, and it's kind of interesting to watch your kids in an interview setting, and you always want to be there for them, but then you get so proud about how they're able to support themselves on their own. They don't really need you anymore. But the interviewer asked my daughter what was her most memorable experience with her family, and I thought, oh, well, she'll talk about one of our ski trips, or something would come up, and I was completely floored by her response. And that was, she responded and said, the most memorable experience for me was standing on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange and watching my mom ring the bell when her company CAVA went public. And she said, I was so proud, and I got to experience that with my family and really get to see what my mom was able to do with all the time that she's been spending. And I still actually get a little sensitive about it when I talk about it, but I had no idea how impactful it was to her to even comprehend or understand, and how proud I felt that she got that out of that experience.
No, that's fantastic. And we started off, I asked you about mentors. You mentioned your mom. It suddenly strikes me that you're probably a really good mentor for your children as well. So. And good for you. So cool. Well, anyway, that's a wonderful story. I want to ask you, what's your advice for the next generation of CFOs? You've learned a lot. You've worked with some great executives. What should the next gen of leaders be focusing on for their careers?
My quick response is go with your gut. So many times in my career, things have come up, and I was like, man, I wish I had pushed on that a little bit more, because something about it just wasn't going the way I thought, or should be going differently. And so go with your gut. But I think more broadly, as I think about the next generation, and you and I both talked about this, having worked for 30 years or more, it is what I get the most, the most sensitive about it, the most thoughtful about is I want our younger generation to know you are enough. Right? Mm-hmm. Like you are enough, who you are and what you want to do, and all this pressure, whether it's from social media or whatever it is that's out there, just remember that you are enough and you're amazing just who you are, and remember that, and you'll succeed in whatever it is you want.
Well, I think that's fantastic. So, and Tricia, I appreciate you making the time to be on this. I know our listeners are just absolutely going to love this. It's, your personal and your work experience are fantastic. And after the thank you, and I'm very grateful, but I'd just like to give you the final word.
If you haven't had a chance to have CAVA, please go enjoy it. It's amazing, and I would love for you to be part of our incredible experience.
Thank you for listening to this episode. To continue your exploration of this role that focuses on strategy, leadership, finance, and technology, listen to more episodes of the show at rockstarcfos.com. Join this revolution, episode by episode. Push yourself to achieve great things and unlock the best opportunities available to you. CFOs are creating a legacy, and it's time for you to leave your own unique imprint on the world today. That's all for now. See you on the next one.